Well, there is that expectation that if you're using these tools, it's scalable and therefore the cost base should come down and the price point should come down. But there is also, let's face it, you've got to develop these tools sometimes. So it's not necessarily true that the price point should come down. Maybe the price point is the same because of, investment in software has a different model to time and materials.
Absolutely.
Advice. But you bring up a point that makes me think about a different point. That point is that you mentioned that legal firms have the structure and Big Four consulting firms have the structure as well. And the structure is effectively that you have senior people who have expertise. Under those senior people, you have teams that have various levels of expertise that are being developed as they work on projects. So it's a hierarchical structure. In that kind of structure, you have not only, I guess, in the legal sense, you have like associates, juniors, whatever the terminology is. In consulting, you have junior consultants. In large companies, you have junior folks who then work their way up to being managers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that tier of people, I'm not saying always, but let's say that they are younger people, right? They are younger people who potentially have gone through the last few years in the sense of a pandemic. They've been remote working. They've been not very heavily socialized in the office. So they haven't got all of the social support that they need. Now they have AI to contend with as a potential competitor for the tasks and activities that they do in an organization. So that has a knock-on effect because, as you can see from my background, I play music, and one of the things that happened during COVID was a lot of the venues that used to put on local bands closed down and they didn't reopen. And if they closed and they didn't reopen, then you still have the big bands to fill the stadium, that kind of band.
Arenas, yeah.
But the groundswell, the young talent that's coming through doesn't have a place to play, so they're not coming through. Now, if we translate that analogy over to consulting, legal, corporate environments, we have the new generation of grads that are coming through, graduates, who potentially haven't been socialized in the office. They come back after a pandemic. Now they have AI competing for their roles as well. What is the potential future disruption or the potential future of work when we think about that, almost that generation having these things to contend with in their work?
Now that is a huge question. It's the most rich question, and it's obviously the question that's keeping a lot of boomer parents or actually millennial parents even awake at night. And I'm one of them. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and I'm also looking at what's happening with the other people in my sphere who are of that Gen Z generation coming into the workforce. Look, I don't have the answers to that, but what I do feel very strongly, because I do a lot of work looking at trends and what's going to be the right kind of skill set, for example, that's going to make kids today really set them up for success in a new workforce. Look, the truth is 50% of the jobs, I'm gonna say this wrong, but what I have heard and I do believe is that there are 50% of the jobs that our kids will be working in by the time they enter the workforce or haven't even been existed yet, aren't in existence yet. And so what we do know is that there will be much more of a gig economy. There will be much more of a sense of these marketplaces. I'm actually on a marketplace called Outlier where you can take on specific jobs where you help to train AI models using your specific skill set. And it's very task-based. For one unit of work, you'll get paid a certain amount of money. That sort of way of work is proliferating now. And the way of rating somebody's performance within that work is also becoming much more quantified and able to be rated and then able to. So a lot more transparency that's entering the marketplace. There's a lot more fractional work. So those are the sorts of things that I see as being huge trends, which mean that there's an awful lot around mindset that's growth mindset that is having to be worked through with young kids today. And every school does really bang on about growth mindset, which I'm glad they do because I think it's fabulous. But that's what they're going to need. They're going to need mindsets to say, okay, I don't know how to do this thing yet, but I'm going to go and figure it out, right? So it's those people who are genuinely curious and able to adapt to new environments that are going to be more successful. Saying that, there's also another thought leadership around, and this is from people like Dan Pink, who've done a lot of work around motivation, who talk about the skill set that's needed for tomorrow. And it's much more fine arts. It's much more around the humanities. It's much more around human empathy. And what are the things, and also talking about the ways in which we need to elevate certain types of what we've considered minimum wage jobs, where it be social care, nursing, the way in which we look after old people, the way in which we look after children, and the way in which we really privilege the way that their little brains need to be properly nurtured early on. And there's a whole new way of thinking around how it used to be that people would say, well, if you want your kid to succeed in life, you must get them around the idea that they're going to need to be good at maths, which is, I think, always a good thing anyway, if you try and encourage that in them. But you need to think about becoming an accountant or a lawyer, Mm-hmm. Those sorts of jobs are going to really stand you in good stead and make you secure in the world. It's those kinds of types of roles that are the most threatened in some way by especially generative AI type tools. So it's interesting, but what does it mean to be a really great accountant who can work with AI-powered tools? What does it mean to be a really great lawyer who can work with AI-powered tools? That's going to be the new world. Now, I actually don't subscribe to the thought that, they're all the lawyers are just going to be, those jobs are just going to be taken by robots. I do think that the type of work is going to shift. And there's going to be an increasing, especially in the real foreseeable future, for quite a long time to come, there will be this need for somebody who can help to be that concierge, that person who really smooths the path and weaves in the human connection through it all.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't have all the answers.
It's a complex topic, but thank you so much for having the conversation around these things today. And for those of you who are watching, if you are watching, then links are going to be down below and tags and hashtags so you can find Jacqui if you want to have a follow-on conversation. Jacqui Woodall, thank you very much for the conversation today.
Thank you.